but there are two animals which are important to understand this poem. Okay, so that morning you need to have a bit of a background knowledge. It's dealing with two things. Okay, the important thing, that is the primary motivation and the secondary motivation. Primary motivation are the instinctive behaviors. Okay, the instinctive behavior like killing, hunting, the primitive behavior of humans, you can say. You can call it the primary needs, like killing, hunting, roti, kapra, and makan kind of a thing. They are primary motivation. Secondary motivation are like, you can say, happiness, satisfaction, contentment. Did you get the idea of primary and the secondary motivation? That what are these two?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you have to keep in mind these two things, that there are primary motivation, which refers to our instinctive attitude, okay, the killing, hunting, and all that, and the secondary motivation, which refers to our happiness, contentment, satisfaction, and all that thing. Okay, so there you'll find different. Now, this form is a bit complex as compared to the others. You have to, the background of the poem is that Ted Hughes, along with his son, they visited a river, okay? And that incident, or you can say that event, inspired him to write this poem. Okay, that thing or that scene, it has inspired him to write this poem. So you find here two animal symbol. One is salmon fish and the other is the bear symbol. Okay, they are fishing they are not fishing in a river. They are simply there standing in the river. Okay, when we read the poem, you have two people who are standing in the river and they are experiencing salmon fish which are swimming by themselves. Okay, and then out of nowhere, two bears come. They dive for the fish. They tear apart the fish, and the scene or the poem ends. This is the summary. Okay, this is what happens in this poem. But we have to see the metaphoric meaning, that how the things are there. So one other thing which is associated with this poem is totemism. Now this is important because it is a belief system of the, you can say, the primitive tribal culture, where they were worshipping animals. Okay, the animals were worshipped, or the animals were regarded as divine beings. Okay, so you find totemism here in this poem, and salmon, fish, and bear is used as totem. Okay, the spirit animals, they are used as spirit animal. We will see in detail that how these spirit animals are working in this poem. But for the start, you need to keep these things in mind. Okay, what has happened and what things you need to keep in mind while reading it. Clear to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
So coming to the poem, we have, it's also a short one, but a bit twisted one. Okay, so we have we cam here. So the very start of the word, the line is telling you that plural pronoun is used. So the context you need to keep in mind, that he along with his son visited the river, and that was inspiration for Ted Hughes to write this poem. Okay, so that is why we are used. Okay, so we came here where the salmon were so many, so steady, so spaced, so far amped on their inner map. Okay, so we have the background or the setting of the poem, that this we, okay, the people here in the poem, they have come where there were so many salmon fish in the river. Okay, so many salmon fish were there in the river. This is the setting. Now, if you just read it further, it says England could add only the sooty, okay, so steady, so spaced, so far on their inner map. Inner map reference toward the cities, the English cities, okay? England could add only the sooty twilight of South Yorkshire, hung with the drumming drift of Lancaster. The name of the two cities are there. Now, cities, I need not to tell you what they stand for in modern poetry. Cities are usually associated with dirt-filled cities, or you can say the cities which are polluted because of industrialization and all that thing. So this very scene of salmon in the river is the only, you can say, is the only relief for the English people because of all the industrialization which is happening in the city. Okay, so this is the only patch which is providing them satisfaction, or you can say a romantic touch can be seen here. If you see the background, Yorkshire and Lancaster, and the way they are described, the sooty twilight of South Yorkshire, sooty twilight, obviously the chimney smoke. Okay, they are sooty, they are filled with dirt. It is, you have the air pollution and all the pollution is there, hung with the drumming drift of Lancasters. The drumming drift of Lancaster obviously reference to, you can say, the sound of machines and everything. Okay, so in that background, we have only one relief, that is salmon fish within that river, where we are. Is it clear to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so till the world had seen capsizing slowly, okay, as if the world was about to be destroyed slowly. So apart, okay, on the background of this destructive world, okay, the world which is on the verge of destruction, we have only one relief, that is the salmon in that river. Okay, it's more like serving as a satisfaction, the secondary motivation. Okay, the salmon fish here for these we is serving as a secondary motivation. Okay, it is providing them satisfaction out of the chaotic world, out of that industrialized world which we have. Did you get it?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, coming to the point, as I told you about the totem. Okay, totemism, the belief system which we have usually in the tribal areas, not our tribal areas, but talking about the red Indian tribes and all that. Okay, where they are practicing totemism. They have totems. Totems are basically spirit animals. Okay, this is a very particular term which they use, that is the spirit animal. Every spirit animal is having symbolic value in totemism. Okay, so salmon obviously is also a totem, a spirit animal. Okay, and it has a particular meaning, or it is a symbol of rebirth, it is a symbol of happiness, it is a symbol of eternal life. Okay, so it is acting as a totem here in the poem as well. And it is all about totemism, meaning the belief system associated with your animistic religion, where the people are practicing animal worship. Okay, the totemism is clear to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, coming to the point, the association, the legends which we have with the two totems which are used in this poem.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
before we move further, we need to see why salmon fish and why bear is used. So this is also a totem. Okay, these are different totems which these tribal or these tribes are worshipping. Okay, and they are acting as a spirit animals for them. So this is also one of the totem where you have a bear eating a salmon fish. This is also one of the totem. Okay, and you have the two animals here in this form. Fine. So first of all, with salmon, keeping in mind that it is a spirit animal, it represents happiness, it represents satisfaction, fertility, and all that thing. But there is a legend, okay, a tribal legend which is associated with salmon fish. And what is that legend? It is that people of those tribe who were practicing, or who were, you can say, taking salmon fish as the spirit animal, they believe that salmon fish were immortal human beings. Okay, and they used to live in the depth of oceans. They were immortal beings and they were living in depth of ocean, and the people on the land, they were mortal humans. Okay, so what these immortal humans used to do, at night they would come out, okay, or in the spring season they would come out of the ocean disguised as salmon fish. They would take the shape of a salmon fish, okay, and then the villagers will catch them, they would eat them, and then the bones would be returned to the ocean. Once again, they would become humans and they would return to the ocean. So you have this legend which is associated with salmon fish, okay, apart from being the symbol of satisfaction, happiness, even though even in that legend as well, that it was providing humans with satisfaction. Obviously, if your hunger is satisfied, so you are satisfied, you are content. So it was also acting as a food for all. Okay, this is what the totemism belief about salmon is. Coming to the bear, bear as a totem or bear as a spirit animal is a symbol of courage, strength, and leadership. Okay, and apart from that, it is also a symbol of keeper of dreams and memory. Okay, and that is why in most of the tribal tribes, these Indian tribes, you have the leaders, they are wearing most of the time the skin of a bear because bear is presenting them as, you can say, the leader. Okay, so I hope now the totems are clear to you. Now you can easily place them in the poem as well. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Now coming to the salmon, okay, solemn to stand there in the pollen light, waist deep in wild salmon, swaying masked as from the hand of God. Okay, so we are still in the secondary motivation. Okay, the people who are standing in the river, they are getting satisfaction from those salmon fish which are swimming by their side, keeping in mind that salmon are acting as spirit animal here. They are providing happiness, they are providing satisfaction to the people who are standing there in the river. Okay, now the things are quite clear to you that why the solemn to stand there, why they are solemnly standing there, because it is providing the movement of the salmon fish is providing them satisfaction, contentment, and happiness. Okay, swaying masked as from the hand of God, there the body separated, golden and imperishable from its doubting thought. Now there the body separated, there the body separated is, you can say, that those salmon fish, okay, they are healing those people who are standing in the river. Okay, they are acting as a spirit animal there, and they, with their movement, have separated the humans which are standing there from their worldly affairs. Okay, from that way, in that very moment when they are having that movement in beside them, so that movement, that moment is giving them a satisfaction, and their body, okay, talking about separation from the skepticism of the world, that they at that very moment, the humans I'm talking about, not the salmon fish, the salmon fish is the spirit animal which is separating the human from their worldly doubts in that very moment. Okay, in that very moment we are talking about. Okay, golden and imperishable, it is reference to the salmon fish, okay, because they are imperishable, keeping in mind the legend that they were immortal beings. Okay, from its doubting thought, a spirit beacon. Now it is comparison of salmon fish with a spirit beacon. Spirit beacon is more like, the spirit animal or the torch bearer, or as if a celestial being. You know what is a celestial being? What is celestial being, by the way? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
So
something
what?
divine?
Yes, you have read this word in William Wordsworth poetry, An Ode to Immortality, if you remember.
Abundance. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
Uh,
celestial, something celestial is heavenly, something celestial is divine and spiritual. So here the spirit beacon, comparison of salmon with a divine being, a spiritual being, keeping in mind the totem. Okay, salmon is a spirit animal here. So a spirit beacon lit by the power of the salmon. Okay, so they are lit by the beacon, the spirit beacon, they are lit by that, and they are separated from the worldly skepticism through their movement. So you find a very Wordsworthian touch here. Okay, it's more Wordsworthian touch in these first stanzas, that they are getting inspiration from the nature. Nature is acting as a divine force. They are inspiring, the nature is inspiring the people who are standing in the river, giving them satisfaction, more like a pantheist view. A pantheism we can find in here. The Wordsworthian kind of thing is there. But when we move further, that Wordsworthian sense is
जी मैम.
demolished.
A pearl in celestial light, the things I have seen, I now can see no more. जब वो अपने childhood के बारे में बात करता है, Wordsworth.
Yes, exactly. And they are right now having that celestial touch because of those spirit animals. Spirit beacon is there in the shape of salmon. Okay, because of the salmon fish, they are having that celestial touch or that celestial connection. They are
जी
having
मैम.
that secondary motivation or they are satisfied there. Okay, that came on, and kept on coming, talking about the salmon fish which are coming by them side, as if we flew slowly. Okay, that is talking about their connection with the salmon fish. The salmon fish is making them feel as if they are flying. Okay, flying how? That is talking about, you can say, flying in um, ecstasy. Okay, the ecstasy thing, I hope you do know what is an ecstasy. I'm not talking about the drug ecstasy, but I'm talking about the state of being. What is ecstasy?
That intense pleasure, ma'am.
Yes, the euphoria, you can call it.
Euphoria,
Okay,
yes, ma'am.
so it is giving them that euphoric kind of feeling when the salmon fish are moving. Okay, their formation lifting us towards some dazzle of blessing. Very Wordsworthian touches there. Okay, it's more like as if that is a spontaneous overflow of those powerful emotions, and it is giving them a tranquil situation, that the tranquility is there, calmness is there, so the secondary motivations are fulfilled. Okay, and then he says this thing, that one wrong thought might darken, and at that very moment of tranquility, that very moment of satisfaction, that very moment of spiritual satisfaction, only one wrong thinking can mar that beauty, can finish that experience. What do you think can be the wrong thought at this very moment?
मैम, it's like एक मछली, एक गंदी मछली सारे तालाब तालाब को गंदा करती है, वही.
So how? It's talking about one wrong thought that might darken that experience which they are right now having. Look, right now they are experiencing the secondary motivation. Fine. But if one wrong thought, what can be the wrong thought? The primary motivation. What if they start hunting the fish? Don't you think so? That would be a wrong thought in that ecstasy and that you can say euphoric condition.
जी मैम,
It's like the
it's like
primary
raising the
motivation
nature, ma'am.
is simply like primary motivation is taking over the secondary motivation. What if that wrong thought comes in their mind and they start fishing for them? So obviously the spirit beacon would be killed.
Yes, ma'am, exactly.
Okay, so one wrong thought might darken, as if the fallen world and salmon were over, as if the fallen world, which world is fallen? The modern world is fallen world, and salmon were over. Okay, if they have one wrong thought, obviously, if they have that primary motivation in action, so the salmon are going to be over and the world is already falling. So both you can see that ecstasy, that euphoria is going to come to an end. As if these were the imperishable fish. Keep in mind, imperishable fish has been repeated because it refers to the legend as well, that
The
they were
salmon, ma'am.
regarded as immortal beings. Okay, so as if, and now, if you remember, one of the lines from Shelley poem Ode to the West Wind, very famous line, and
जी मैम.
all
Which
the
one, ma'am?
time my favorite lines, I fall upon the thorns of life, I
Ah,
bleed.
ma'am, yes. The
Okay, so
sufferings. Yes, ma'am.
the suffering, the fallen world suffering. So you find a romantic touch in here, as if the age of reason. Keep in mind that Ted Hughes was also anti-rationalist. He was not in favor of rationality. So you find a romantic touch. Okay, so the age of reason, or the reason or rationality, is going to mar that beauty. And we feel more a Shelley kind of touch here, that he falls upon the thorns of life, he bleeds. Okay, so as if these were the imperishable fish that had let the world pass away. Okay, keep in mind the legend. Why this out of nowhere you have this line that as if these were the imperishable fish, because the legend is associated with salmon fish that they were immortal. Okay, they had let the world pass away. I mean, they were the one which has let the world pass away. They have seen the destruction, they have seen everything. Okay, there in mauve light of drifted lupins, they hung in the cupped hands of mountain. Now it is description of the salmon fish within the water. Okay, their description that how they are looking. The color is like mauve light of drifted lupins. Lupins are also kind of flower which are, I guess, violet, or they're in different color, but mostly they are in violet color. Okay, so just talking about the, you can say what the scene when they are standing in the river, and the speaker is describing that how the salmon fish were looking in the river, as if the cupped hands of mountain, you have a personification. Okay, that mountains are having cupped hands, as if you are holding two hands, and those hands you have water, and in that water you have very bright color salmon fish moving, very, you can say, romantic kind of touch. The way it is presented is more romantic in nature. Okay, it's more evoking the romanticism in our mind when we read it. Okay, made of tingling atoms, still talking about the salmon fish. Okay, it is just the description of the salmon fish. It had happened. What has happened? The moment has happened. Okay, the very moment of them experiencing the satisfaction, the happiness, the euphoria, the ecstasy, it had happened. Okay, that has happened. Then for a sign that we were where we were, two gold bears came down and swam like men. Okay, then out of nowhere, still they were there in the water, and out of nowhere, two gold bears. Now, I need not to tell you what gold bear or what bear is standing for. Okay, so out of nowhere, when they were experiencing the primary, secondary motivation, out of nowhere, gold bears or the two bears come to the river, and they swam like men. Very obscure here, that they were swimming like men. So maybe here he is trying to equate the bears with the men, with those men who are having the primary motivations. Okay, so here now the animal world, that romantic things have done. Okay, the entrance of the two bears in the scene has ended that romanticism, has ended those secondary motivation. Now the primary motivation has entered the scene. The two bears came down and swam like men beside us, and dived like children, and stood in deep water as on a throne, eating purse salmon of their talons. Wait. Okay, so you just see, keep the connection of bear as a spirit animal. We have just read bear as a totem. Keep in mind that description, that bear are the symbol of courage, leader, and all that. Okay, and they dived in that river, they dived like children. Okay, and stood in deep water as on a throne, eating purse salmon of their talon. So very much violence we are introduced with. Okay, that primary motivation has taken place, the primary motivation of killing, hunting, violence. If you keep in mind the introduction of Ted Hughes, where we talked about the animal instinct, the animal instincts are the primary motivations. Getting the point?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we found the end of our journey. Which journey? The spiritual journey which they were experiencing. It has come to an end because the primary motivation has come to the scene. Their secondary motivation has been fulfilled, but it was cut short by the primary motivation. So we stood alive in the river of light. Why the river of light? Because it was a spirit beacon, it was providing them a euphoria or ecstasy. Among the creatures of light, they were still there. They were standing alive. Why they were alive? Because both the motivations were fulfilled, their primary and the secondary. But the primary one has, what you can say, it has overtaken your secondary one. Because the killing and hunting, as you find in Ted Hughes' poetry, it's more prominent than the secondary one. The violence of nature, or the violence within the human nature. Clear to all of you? Any question? Anything
Yes,
which is
ma'am.
left unclear?
Ma'am,
Anything?
the ending line shows the victory of humans over nature. Is it so, ma'am?
It's the victory of violence over nature.
Yes, ma'am. But we represent that violence, ma'am,
Yes,
basically.
yes. It's our violent or instinctive behavior which is always winning.
Okay, ma'am.
Anything you people want to ask, anything which is left unclear?
Everything is clear, ma'am. मैम पेपर्स के